Hello and welcome. It's my great pleasure to be the first one to welcome you this afternoon. I'm Mary Beth Graybill, the Arlene and Harold Snitzer Curator of Asian Art here at the Portland Art Museum. And on behalf of the Asian Art Council, which is co-sponsoring this event, I'm delighted, really thrilled, to welcome you all to this karmically blessed afternoon. I am going to cede place to my colleague, Diane Durston, the Arlene Snitzer Curator of Art and Culture at the Portland Japanese Garden, to introduce our distinguished guest. But it's my happy task to ask you to turn off your phones. This magical karmic moment down. Put them away. And Diane.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth, and I really would like to thank Mary Beth Graybill and the Asian Art Council of the Portland Art Museum. As many of you know, I worked for the Portland Art Museum years ago before I started at the Japanese Garden, and I've been so pleased to be able to continue my relationship with the museum, and so very grateful to the museum and to Mary Beth for this year, during the time when we are partially closed for construction. Our buildings now are used for other things, for offices primarily, but during that time, Mary Beth and the Asian Art Council, with the help of Jan Quivy, have twice hosted lectures for us while we're closed, and I am so pleased about this continuing goodwill, and thanks to Mary Beth and to the Asian Art Council again for hosting us. It's my honor to introduce our guest lecturer, Reverend Daiko Matsuyama, who is the vice abbot of a temple in Kyoto called Myoshinji. Something I noticed today when I was looking again at his biography is that I was unable to meet him when I first arrived in Kyoto because he wasn't born yet. Fortunately, recently, a couple of years ago, I was introduced to him by a man named Shiro Nakane, whose father Nakane Kinsaku had designed one of the gardens at Taizoin. Taizoin is a subsidiary temple in Myoshinji. I believe there are 30 or more, 46 subsidiary temples inside the Myoshinji monastery complex. I think that many of us have been to Kyoto. And if you go to Kyoto for the first time, inevitably people will take you to Kinkakuji, the gold pavilion, or Kiyomizudera temple, or Ginkakuji, the silver pavilion. You're taken to the famous places that have become kind of tourist meccas in Kyoto, and truly they're amazing places. But there are other places in Kyoto that are very, very important to see when you go. And one of them is the Myoshinji Monastery. Only 2-3 of these sub-temples are open to the public, except for some special openings once a year. It's the largest monastery, as Rinzai Zen Buddhist monastery in Japan, and has many, many branches all over the country. And so, if you have the opportunity to go to Kyoto again, I urge you to go to Taizoin, which has exquisite gardens. One rather newly built by Nakane Kinsaku. There are more than just the two, and one inside a part of the temple that dates to the 14th century, which is the age of Myoshinji and of Taizoin. So this is a very, very revered temple. And so we're very, very honored to have Reverend Matsuyama with us. So I'm going to give this away. He was born in 1978, and he attended Catholic school for 6 years as a young man. And then he entered Tokyo University to study something kind of surprising for a Zen priest. He was not a Zen priest at the time, but he entered Tokyo University to study essentially rice and sake production. He speaks incredibly beautiful English, and I think he learned some of that from foreign students at Tokyo University at the time. But he took on formal training thereafter and became the vice abbot, I believe in 2006, perhaps, yes. And so we're also very pleased to let you know that in 2015, the patrons of the Portland Japanese Garden visited Kyoto on a trip, and we went to Taizo-in, and at that time, Steve Bloom and I and others at the garden had instigated a formal collaborative partnership with Taizo-in, and we signed a kind of proclamation of that partnership. And so this visit to lecture here in Portland is the first iteration of that collaboration, and we'll continue to do exchanges with Taizo-in hereafter. With thanking the Asian Art Council once again, Reverend Matsuyama is in the country this time to lecture and participate in the U.S.-Japan Leadership Conference as one of the selected group from Japan to participate in that. And so we're fortunate to have him just for one day and one night in Portland. And next time I hope we can keep him for much longer so we can show him more of our beautiful city and the Portland Art Museum as a part of that. So I'll turn this over now and introduce to help me welcome Reverend Matsuyama.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Daiko Matsuyama, as Diane introduced me. So I am very, very honored to be here today. So actually, this is my first visit to US in 10 years. So I'm very excited to be here. So today I would like to introduce you on the theme of Zen and Japanese culture. So Zen was introduced to, so Zen was created in India and introduced to China, and 1,000 years ago introduced to Japan. So, but unfortunately, the original Zen was disappeared in India and in China. So Zen remains as it is in Japan, and I think also in some part of states. So, but of course, Japan is a center of Zen, and also Kyoto has many monasteries of Zen. So Kyoto is a kind of the center of Zen Buddhism. And so Zen was introduced to foreign countries, so mainly to the US, around 80 years ago, 90 years ago, by Dr. Suzuki. And he wrote a very beautiful and famous book, Zen and Japanese Culture. So I think many of you have read the books. And so it is very, very heavy thing, and important things. So, but I dare to speak about Zen and Japanese culture today. So before starting my presentation, I think most of you have never been to Kyoto. So, and of course I've never been to the old temple. So last week we made a kind of videos of the temple. It is, I'm afraid it is a temporary version because so I have no time to make it better. But if you watch this movie, you can have the image what it is. this area, so West Coast areas. So Zen is very popular. And so many of you have heard of the word of Zen. So, but it is very hard to explain you what is Zen in simple words and phrases. So, today I'd like to introduce you the characteristics of Zen, two characteristics of Zen. So, first one is from the religious aspect. So, there are many sectors in Buddhism. For example, Tibetan Buddhism or South Asian Buddhism, and in Japan we have 14 major sectors of Buddhism. So, the reason why there are so many sectors is that, so for example, please imagine Mount Fuji. So Mount Fuji is a very huge mountain, and if you want to climb the mountain, it may be possible to go around to the summit, but it takes a lot of time and effort. So that's why we choose a path to the summit. So this is a kind of the difference of the sectors. So like Mount Fuji, Buddha is a great person. So we cannot know he's everything. But so that's why we concentrate on some aspect of Buddha, and we try to get the summit of his teachings. So for example, in some sectors, believe that his the mind of compassion is the most important things. The other sectors believe that his words are the most important things. So in Zen, we believe that his character, more simply speaking, what he did is the most important things. For example, so this is plain water, but if this is orange juice, so I will drink oranges in front of you and explain how tasty it is by words and phrases. It's a little bit sweet, sour, and cold, drinkable. But however I explain you words and phrases, you will never know how tasty it is unless you drink it. So this is Zen. So there are lots of books about Zen, and there are many masters who are like them. But how many books we read, or how many masters we read, we will never know how the enlightenment how great enlightenment is. So that's why we cherish practice and experiences. So that's why we practice on very hard trainings even now in the monastery, and we do the same thing as Buddha did, and we try to find what it is like for ourselves through hard trainings, hard experiences, practices. So this is the basis of Zen Buddhism. And the other aspect of, so this is cultural aspect, so of the characteristics of Zen is that, so this is how we write Zen in Chinese character. I'm afraid you don't know the character itself, but we can separate into two parts, left part and right part. So the left part means this is verb, and it expresses to show something. And the right part, this is noun, and express simplicity. So the core concept of Zen is to show the simplicity. So later I will explain you many cultures Zen created. For example, the garden. So Zen garden is very simple, and Zen structure. So for example, in Thailand or Myanmar, the temples are golden symbols and everything, very shiny and fancy. But in the Zen temples in Kyoto or in Japan is very simple. And we eat very we practice meditation to make our mind simple. So we try to make everything simple. So this is the other characteristics of Zen. So we are living in a very complicated, busy world. So to be simple is very, very important to survive this era. And so now I'd like to start from the trainings of Zen. So this is 10 years ago, and I'm very young, and I hope I'm still young. And if you want to be a Zen priest, you have to train in a special monastery for more than 3 years. So life in the monastery is something like that. We wake up at 3 in the morning every day, and 1 hour morning service, and 2 hour meditation. So in the daytime, we have physical works, for example, cleaning the garden, mopping the floor, or the field, something like that. And from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight, we have to meditate again. So we can sleep only 3 hours per day. And we have to train for more than 3 years. So we have no day off for the first 6 months. And after that, we have half day off a month. So it is very, very hard trainings. And in my area, of course, we have no TVs, no radios, and no mobiles, no internet, and no books at all. So as Diana-san introduced me, I studied in a Christian school for 6 years. So even now, I have many chances to visit mainly European countries to stay in Christian monasteries. So in coming September, I will go to Assisi and Vatican in Italy, and I will meet the new Pope, Francesco, in coming September. So I have many exchanges with Christian communities. And so, of course, there are lots of common things among Zen monastery and Christian monastery, but there are some big differences between Christianity and Zen monasteries. For example, so the common thing is that we wake up early in the morning and morning service and supper in quiet room. So, but after that, there are big differences. So in Christian monasteries, they have more time to pray, or they have lots of time to study. So study history, languages, Bibles. So they have lots of time to study. But in Zen monasteries, we have no time to study at all. So just clean the garden and make the woods and mop the floor. So that's all. So we have no time to study. So the reason is that the reason why we have no study is that because we cherish practice and experiences. Of course, we have many important and great teachings in Zen or the Buddhism. But if we learn the teachings, if only learn the teachings of Buddhism, it's only just information or the knowledge. But we have to, appreciate the teachings from whole my body and mind, and then we can apply it to our everyday life. So that's why we cherish practice and experiences. So normally we learn something by, so there is a very famous phrase in Japan, we call it as mon shishu. Mon means study, to study something and learn something. So it is a kind of literally study. And shi means think or imagine something. So why we are doing that, or why should we be doing that? And then we practice. So this is a normal way of study something. But in Zen, it's opposite. So we start by practice. Practice and think and study. So this is our style. So it is something similar to how to learn swim or how to learn riding a bicycle. Of course, you cannot learn how to swim by watching DVD or reading books. So it is something like that. So we start just practice, and then gradually think why we are doing that, and we study books or something. So that's why in Zen Monastic we have no time to study. And through this kind of trainings, we have created lots of beautiful cultures in Japan. So of course, so today I was invited by Zen Japanese garden, so I would like to start the garden. Okay? So this is a garden in Yoshinji. So I'm afraid it is not open to the public. This is very beautiful. I think one of the most beautiful Japanese garden in Japan. So as I said, the core concept of Zen is simplicity. So this is, I think, the ultimate simplicity. Okay, San, that's all. But in Japan, we cherish space. In Japanese, we call it ma. So because we have spaces, we can. I think the buildings behind or the trees get more vivid. And also, every time I enjoy this garden, I can see it in different way because my mind is different. So this garden reflects your mind. And also, as I said, we cherish practicing experiences. So some people say, by looking at the garden, so this garden is looks very easy to maintain. But in fact, it is very, very difficult. Because, for example, only one leaf put it in the center of the garden. We have to go and get it because it's there's nothing around. So if we go to the middle of the garden, we have to rake it again. So and also, so what is I think when I first meet this garden, I was very much surprised, and I thought it must be very hard job to maintain this garden because if you rake the garden, so rake round is not so difficult, but when you draw the straight lines, it's very, very difficult. So this is I think 30 meters. So it is long lines. So and very wide. So if you would rake this garden, you need lots of concentrations to draw these lines. So I think I said that in US Zen is very popular, but I think a little bit difference from Zen in Japan and Zen in US. So something like sushi in Japan and sushi in US. A little bit different. Of course, it is made of fish and the rice is about different. So I think the biggest difference between Zen in US or I think mindfulness is very popular in the US, right? And Zen in Japan is that the people in US are a little bit utilitarians, right? So there is gain, so they practice meditation or they practice mindfulness. But in Japan, we do not do it that way. So as I said, this is the garden to practice something. So by raking the garden, we automatically be mindful or be concentrated. So that's why the gardening is a very, very important part of the Zen trainings. So it is a very natural way to be mindful. And this is another style of Zen garden. gardens, also in Myoshinji, and not open to the public once 10 years open to the public. So this garden, so many people come to the temple and they ask me, I want to make this kind of garden in my house. And of course you can make it the garden in your house. And actually there is no rule to make this garden except for one rule, that we have to express whole universe within this small area. So this garden was made around 300 years ago by the Zen priest. So at that time there was no concept of solar system, something like that. But his universe was something like this. So I think it is not a coincidence. So his concept was the universe was something like that. So so this is another aspect of Zen gardens. And so this is very famous garden in Ryowanji. So it is World Heritage Temple, and this garden is, I think, one of the most famous gardens in Japan. And this garden was made around 500 years ago. So this is a very old garden. And so the reason why this garden is so famous and so important is that this garden contains everything. So there are three important elements in this garden. So first one is it's beautiful, and the color of the wall is brown. So it can be white, but if we make the wall white, it is too bright. So that's why we remain it's brown. And also the combination of the rocks is very, very beautiful. So last month I had a talk with a mathematician in Japan, and he's a very famous one. And he said in mathematics, this the combination of the rocks is beautiful in aesthetic way, and in calculation. So the combination of the rocks, the plan of the garden is made in that way. And also, the second important thing of this garden is that this garden has teachings. So, in fact, there are 15 rocks in this garden, 15 rocks in this garden. And you will enjoy the garden from the Buddha Hall on your right, and there is a long the corridor here. But wherever you go, you can watch 15 rocks. You will mark 1 or 2 rocks, so it means you can see only 13 or 14 rocks at a time. So there are many understandings, but one understanding is that in Japan we regard 15 is a perfect number, 15. So anywhere you go, you can see all 15 rocks. So it means that human beings cannot be perfect at any times. Or so you're looking at the same things, but from different angles you can see different rocks. So it means even you and your friends are looking at the same things. The concept of the things is very different from persons. So in this way, so this garden has a teachings in itself. And the third important thing of this garden is that this garden is very practical garden. So it means that so many people ask me, why should the color of the sun white? It can be blue or it can be red. But as to this garden, it should be white. Can you imagine the reason? So because this is practical gardens. So it means in ancient times we didn't have electricities. So if we spread white on the round hole, it reflects the light and room gets lighter. So that's why it should be white. So this garden is practical garden and beautiful, and it has teachings. So that's why this garden survives for more than 500 years. So So he's a British people, he's a British person, but a good friend of mine said, why there's no explanation of this garden in the temple? And we do not explain a lot in the gardens, where we have no instruction with the garden, because Zen is a religion of awareness, so we have to feel it. So it is something like the taste of the orange juice. So if I explain you what are the phrases, you will understand, oh, it is sour and a little bit sweet and very cold. But you do not understand the taste of the orange juice at all. So it is something like that. You have to feel it unless you cannot enjoy the taste of the orange juice. So normally we do not have any instructions or explanations around them. And this is the garden of our temple. So we call it as Inonyo. Inonyo means that we have a bright garden and dark garden. So this is a dark garden. And so the other important things of Japanese garden is that, or the teachings of Zen is that we cherish hidden virtue. So 2 years ago, one of the founder of Costco came to the temple and practiced meditation together, and from Seattle. And at the end of the class, he asked me, what is the meanings of Tai-zoing temple? So I replied that Tai means hidden virtue. So hidden virtue means, for example, you go to the restrooms and sleepers in this cabinet, and in that case, we make it in order. So by looking at, nobody see, but we do it that way. So we call it hidden virtue. And the zo means bundle of. So it means we have to make a lot of hidden virtue. And he replied, why? So it's very American questions. So you do lots of good things. Why don't you show off to the audience or anybody? And so I thought it very, very interesting. Japanese people don't think in that way. So I gave him the explanation. I gave him the story. And so once I was waiting for the traffic light is turned blue to ride on the train, and the traffic light got blue, and a guy was walking from the opposite side. And he's a big guy, and he's wearing a white t-shirt, brand new t-shirt, and there are big letters in his chest, and it says CELD, so Celeb. So of course I don't know him. So he, in fact, he may be a real celebrity, or he wants to be ironic to the celebrities while wearing that t-shirt. I don't know the reason. But one thing I can say is that wearing that CELD t-shirt, he doesn't look like a real celebrities, right? So I think it is something like this. So if you really do good things, you do not have to say anything, because we can know by showing, by looking at it. And if you explain or show us something, I think it's too wordy. We think in that way in Japan. So that's why we do not show off. We take a lot of time to make these gardens, or a lot of efforts to make something like that. So it is the same reason as we have no explanations or no instructions around Zen gardens in Japan. And So this is also our gardens. And the big difference between Japanese garden and Western garden is that Japanese garden is asymmetry, so not symmetry. So this is characteristics of Japanese gardens, and there is no boundary between inside and outside. So for example, the English garden is very symmetry, okay? And they enjoy the garden from inside. The inside and outside is very much different. So separated by walls or glasses, so it's very different. But in Japan, we enjoy the garden from the corridors or from opening or sliding doors, something like that. So we have no boundaries between inside and outside. So this is the very big difference from the Japanese garden and the Western gardens. And also, so this is the characteristics of the Japanese gardens. We use local things, and we try to make the best of the materials. So, for example, in so many beautiful gardens in the States, so they try to import good things and make beautiful gardens. But in Japan, we do not do it that way. We use local things, and we try to make the best of the things. And in fact, Zen Buddhism is very efficient religion. But efficient doesn't mean efficiency in money or efficiency in time. But we cherish the efficiency of goods, efficiency of things. So that's why we use the local things, and we try to do the best of the things. For example, this is the path in our gardens, and these stones were reused by in Kyoto. There is the trolley cars in the city area 30 years ago, and they stopped using the trolley cars, and so they gave these stones for free. So my grandfather gave it from the city office, and he used it in the past. So in this way, so we try to make the best of the things. So this is another aspect of and as to different cultures, so we created a lot of things in Japan. So one of them is the paintings and the Zen riddles. So in special terms, we call it koan or Zen mondo. So this is a picture of the Zen mondo, so koans. So drawn around 600 years ago. So we call this picture as hyonenzu. So actually, this is all these ink and brush paintings in Japan. So you can see in the picture, you can see a man is standing in the center, and it is very small, so you cannot recognize it. But he is holding a small gourd, a kind of water container, and you can see a big catfish in the river. So the question is, how do you catch this big catfish with this tiny bottle? So this is the question. So it's impossible, but we have to find answers to trainings. So this question was made around 600 years ago by the fourth Reverend Matsuyama, whose name is Ashikara Yoshimochi, and whose father is very famous and popular, whose name is Ashikara Yoshimitsu, who made the Golden Temple in Kyoto. So his father was very powerful in politics and economies, but he didn't succeed to his son. So his son gradually interested in Buddhism and art, and he finally became a Buddhist priest. And among his colleagues, there's a monk whose name is Josetsu, and who went to China and studied Buddhism and art. and he introduced ink and brush paintings into Japan for the first time. So that's why the shogun asked him to draw his question into this picture. So that's why this is oldest ink and brush paintings in Japan. And at that time, there were 31 very famous nobles and priests in Kyoto city area, and shogun ordered all of them to solve these questions. And you can see lots of the letters above. So these are 31 different answers by these priests for this question. So I can give you some examples. So the catfish is very slippery. So why don't you put some oil on the bottle? And it may suddenly sip the bottle. It's impossible. Another example is, if we could catch catfish, let's make a clear soup for the catfish. But how can we cook rice? So let's cook rice with the sun on the river. So it's also incomprehensible. So all these answers are impossible or incomprehensible in logic. But this question implies something. So this big catfish implies something big. For example, your big dreams or enlightenment. And this small bottle implies something small. For example, you're circle human beings. So this question can be converted. How do you get enlightenment? Or how do you catch your big dreams? Of course, there's no logical answer. So we have to find the answer for ourselves through our trainings. And we call this kind of a question as forward. So if we say that enlightenment is a phone, that question is a finger that directly. So if you look at only finger, you cannot see the moon. So what count is a direction of the finger. It means the implication of the questions. So now we have lots of Zen followers all over the world, and most of them are the leaders of various fields. I think one of the reasons is that so if you're a little bit smart, you can solve logical problems. But the many leaders face very big problems that can be solved by logics. And in that case, this kind of question or thinking is very important to go beyond the logics. So that's why we use this kind of questions for trainings. So Zen is not something like relaxing or good for the world or something like that. Zen is very irrational and sometimes very violent. And if we practice meditation, the world will not turn good or something. But if you want to really change yourself or really change your life, just come. So this is how Zen goes. And the another important cultures we created is martial arts, or tea ceremonies, or calligraphy. So these kind of cultures were mostly influenced by Zen or teachings of Buddhism. And the beginning of this year, a member of council of IOC International Olympic Committee came to our temple and practiced meditation together. And she asked me, what is the difference from Western archery and Japanese archery? So, in fact, there are a lot of very big differences between two. So the biggest difference is that in Japanese archery, the purpose of Japanese archery is not to get a target. So, have you ever read the books Zen and the Art of Japanese Archery, written by, some of you. So you may understand the difference, but it is very, very beautiful book and a very famous book. So if you are interested in Zen and if you want to know something about Zen, of course the practice is the most important things, but the books can be a very good motivation to practice Zen. So I highly recommend you to read this book. And so as I said, so in Japanese archery, we do not try to get a target. So to get a not the priority. So in Japanese archery, when you play the archery, you when you enter the hall, you have to bow and go to the place, and you have to keep your posture and breath in proper way, and you slow the arrow, and then you bow again and go out. So this is how we do in Japanese archeries. So the most important things of Japanese archery is that by using the arrows, we try to make our spirit to the very summit. So it is not a problem of the target, but it is a problem of ourselves, our mind, our spirit. So it is something to do with the difference between fencing and kendo. So in fencing, if you get a point, you can throw your sword away. So you're allowed to act in this way. But in Japanese kendo, even when you get the point, you should keep calm and until you bow to the other. And because in kendo we cherish zanshin. Zanshin means we have to remind our mind on the sword even after we get the point. So in this way, the kendo is also the purpose of kendo is not to be the other, but it is a problem of our spirit. So by using the sword, we try to make our spirit to the point. So in Kyudo, so the target is just a confirmation, the situation or status of our spirit or mind. So there is a big difference between the Japanese archery and Western archeries. So in this way, every Japanese martial arts is not the priority or the purpose of Japanese martial art is not to be the enemy or not to be the other, but it is a question of ourselves. So this is the most important characteristics of Japanese martial arts. And at the end, I would like to introduce you the cuisine, Japanese cuisine. So this is Shojin Ryori and the traditional vegan cuisine in Japan. And now vegan is very popular all over the world, and lots of people come to Osaka and try vegan cuisine. But I'm afraid I'm not. I dare to say that I do not like vegan people, because so not everybody is not in that attitude, but many vegan people do not eat everything, so they have likes and dislikes, and also many people, I'm vegan, I only eat vegetarians, but I look at them, they are wearing beautiful leather boots or leather bags or something like that. So of course, I don't say all of the vegans, but many of the vegans, they're interested in only their health. Okay? So Japanese traditional cuisine yogi is not something like that. So this is a practice of teachings of Buddhism. So in Zen trainings in the monastery, we are supposed to cook concentrate too much to the studies, the books. So the Dogen thought that Zen has more profound world. So he went to China to study Zen world. And he ride on the big ship with Japanese tasty ingredients, for example, the dried mushroom or something like that. And he went to China. And but he was not allowed to land for the first year, as the first week, and he had to stay in the ship for a week. And at that time, he had I guess, surprising and amazing meetings with a priest. And that is a Chinese priest, and he was trained in the Chinese monastery, and he came to the ship to buy the food from Japan. And he happened to meet him on the ship. And when I first met him, the Dogen was very much surprised because he was around 60 years old. So at that time, the life expectancy was around 40 years. But 60 years Buddhist priest came all the way from the monastery to get some food. So in Japan, it was an incredible thing. And the Dogen asked him, asked the priest, where do you come from? And the priest replied that, I came around 20 miles away in the monastery. And he asked him that, you are very much old, very old, and you look like a highly status the priest. So why on earth the highly status priest came all the way to buy some stuff from Chinese ships? And so I think you have younger the priest in the monastery, so they can come and buy some things. And the priest replied to Dogen that, young Japanese priest, it seems that you don't know nothing about Buddhism. And he went back. And he was very much, how can I say, wondered why, so he would never experience it that way. And as soon as he got the permission of the Chinese government, he went to the monastery. And it was the hottest time of the year, so in July, and after just afternoon, so the hottest day, hottest time of the day. And he arrived at that monastery, and he made a second surprise meetings with the priest. So when he arrived, he saw very black with sunshine. He was burned by sunshine and looks like 60 or 70 years old. The priest, he was drying seaweed in the garden, and at the hottest time of the day. And he went to him and he asked the question. So why do you dry seaweed in such a hot time of the day? So you can do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon. So you in cooler time of the day. And the priest replied that this is the most suitable time to dry the seaweed. So if you do not do this, when do you do that? And the Dogen asked another question. Okay, so but you have more younger priests in the monasteries. Why don't they help you to dry your seaweeds here? And the priest replied that this is my training, so it cannot be replaced by anybody. And he was surprised to hear that, and he realized that pure mind. So Shojin Ryori, Shojin means purification of the mind, and the cuisine is Ryori is a cuisine. So the reason why we call it a purification mind cuisine is that the people who cook this cuisine have to have a pure mind. For example, he can weigh things, and he has to think about the people who eat this cuisine, and also the people who eat this cuisine have to have a pure mind. So they can weigh things, they have to eat everything, and they have to enjoy them. And at the end of the meal, they have to clean all the dishes by pouring the boiled water and drink it up. Because, so of course, it is in order to not to waste things, but also we have to think about the people who wash these dishes. So so we call Shojin Ryori, vegetarian Zen vegetarian cuisine, that we eat efforts. So we need very much efforts and times to make this kind of cuisine. So the people who eat this cuisine have to think about the people who wash these dishes. So they already took time and efforts to make this cuisine. So we have to we do not let them use more time to clean up the dishes. So that's why the people who cook this cuisine and the people who eat this cuisine, both of us have to have a pure mind. So that's what we call it the pure mind cuisine. So in this way, so the cuisine or the Japanese vegan the dishes is the basis of beautiful Japanese cuisines. So at the end of my lecture, I would like to show you a very beautiful videos. I'm afraid this is a private video, but if you watch this movie, you can understand what Zen is or how Zen has inspired Japanese culture. And actually, this is the story of my wife, and she's standing there with my daughter. And actually, my father-in-law, he studied in our monasteries before, so he was very talented, very famous Japanese restaurant chef. And he got 2 stars from Michelin, but he closed his restaurant last year. And the biggest reason is that my wife is only a child, and she's only a daughter, and we get married, so I'm to be blamed. And but he studied Zen monasteries before he started the trainings in Japanese restaurants to become a chef. And he studied in a very famous Japanese restaurant for 23 years. And after that, he opened his own restaurants, and he did it for 27 years. And so it was very, very, I admire him and respect him very much. And he's a kind of artisan and artist of Japanese cuisine. And Kyoto is a city of gastronomies, and we have 7 3-star restaurants in Kyoto, and 3 out of 7 restaurants the chef studied Zen before they started trainings in the restaurants. So Zen influenced a lot to Japanese cultures, especially Japanese cuisine. So I like to know how the teachings of Zen, especially if you want to do awesome, great jobs, we need teachers or mentors. So Zen teachers, Zen is a kind of a teachers for every cultures in Japan. The tea masters and cuisines and calligraphies and martial arts and everything. So please enjoy the video, and please I would like to feel the teachings of how